is the voice of instruct relay automatic in and for the planet you of the earth called Jupiter. On behalf of the Honorable Representative Corton, we are ready to begin with that information which we have in our records at this time. We do not intercede except when called upon by those who are in their various nations, governing situations or bodies, and by the popular consent of their people. This is only in emergency situations where we have been called upon to cease activity having to do with nuclear devices.
Well, things went on and on and on, and then one time a theorist suggested that I should have a rendezvous. He fixed up the time and the date, and it was at night, and I had to go alone to a place I'd never been before, and eventually I found myself, after obeying these instructions, on the top of a small mountain in North Devon, and there I was contacted by the Master Jesus, who came to this planet in a flying saucer.
I don't believe that for one moment, because I know from the testimony of the Scriptures and the testimony of people like Commander Valiant Thor that Jesus Christ was actually God incarnate.
Who is Klala? Klala is the name of an individual who has contacted us perhaps 15 times in the last year. He identifies himself as being from one of the planets of the sun Aldebaran.
Well, finally, these sources that I was in contact with, whose name finally derived as Jonal, Jon-N-Al, Jon-Al, Jonal, told me to go to the big rock in the desert if I wanted to learn more about them, if I wanted to learn something more about the truth about them. Go to the big rock in the desert. And I said, okay, fine, where's the big rock in the desert? They never gave me any answers to it. And it so happened that my mother was interested in what I was doing, and had met a lady that had come into her restaurant in San Fernando Valley. Turned out to be Nora Helms, who was James Cagney's private secretary when she was alive, and when he was alive, and later attended some of our group meetings that we had. But anyway, she said that she had been out to the desert, and she talked to a man underneath this big rock that talked to space people. I became highly excited. I said, where? Where did he say where? You had people from all over California, from out of state, people that flew in. It was amazing, absolutely amazing. I just couldn't hardly believe it.
Back in 1958, I attended my first flying saucer convention at Giant Rock Airport in the California high desert. And there must have been about 5,000 people present there. And we all gathered to hear stories from the contactees and the researchers. There weren't a whole lot of researchers in those days, but from many of the contactees about their rides on flying saucers.
Howard, would you tell us in your own words about your trip to Venus, how it started?
Well, as I say, it started first with a very decided tingling all over my body. This tingling finally extended to the mind area, and there was a clarification of mind such as it's hard to believe. I seemed to become one with the entire universe. everything in the universe seemed to be compacted down to one small dot.
I used to speak at Giant Rock just about every year. That was before I had my personal contact with a person from another planet. There was a platform there upon which speakers from every nation could stand and speak their mind without any limitation whatsoever. And they in turn would relate unusual incidents that occurred to them involving UFO, space and science, and alien visitations.
Now notice, God or the space visitors do not endow one person with a privilege and leave everybody else empty-handed. No, the people who believe in flying saucers and yet have never seen one can tell you more about a flying saucer than one who has been in it. Because the one who has been in it, he has to be shown the hard way. And I was one of those hardheads. But I do believe what I see. And I am one of those who was inside a flying saucer.
Now, how many crew members were aboard?
I never saw more than 12 or 14 at any one time, but the captain told me that there were 32 men and a woman in each one, and they have many, all identical.
And you talked to him, you asked him?
I have, more or less on gestures and mental telepathy, as it is known, talk transfer.
He does not speak. I mean,
He didn't at the time, but I have met him since, and he does speak very well English as well as in the other language.
They told me that language is no barrier to them anywhere. They could speak any language.
So they told you that in English?
Yes.
Did he tell you where he came from?
Yes, this time he told me he was from Venus, although I have met men from other planets as well.
What were their clothes like?
The woman had a radiant red box-pleated skirt and a black velvet-appearing blouse and a black and red tam or beret, and the men had clothes very similar to our Greyhound bus drivers, very similar uniforms.
What we all did was tell what happened. We reported. We let the chips fall where they may. Now, for instance, when they said they had just come from the planet Venus, I assumed and wrote, I think incorrectly, that they were Venusians. And I'd like to straighten that out, because I don't think they were Venusians any more than our astronauts were moon people.
They look very beautiful. One thing I did notice, that for such a tall person, this one had very small feet.
They are just the same. They would pass you in the street, you wouldn't even know the difference unless you look very closely. There are some differences in facial appearance, but very little. They look just like our own people. In fact, many of them appear to be, let us say, of average height, medium height to very tall. They have peculiarities to the eyes, and they look sort of like, I would call, like Scandinavian, many of them, or Nordic, as they've said.
My own impression is that we are going to see more and more of these visitors from space, and that before too long the evidence will be incontrovertible, that you will have on your TV screens and on your movie screens concrete evidence that the ships are here and that they are real and they're not fantastic things which have been cooked up to make a movie.
I believe that the aliens are coming here, many of them, for their own purposes, for their own agenda. Now we know that some of these alien entities, like the little gray beings, have some kind of long-term biogenetic program where they examine human beings, they examine animals, and they appear to be doing some kind of crossbreeding or hybriding type of experiments. And yet there are other type of beings who seem to be friendly and not hostile at all. And they seem to be here purportedly if we are to take them at their word, for our benefit, to bring us up, let's say, to a higher state of consciousness, of awareness, to solve some of our problems here on Earth. And yet, again, we have other type of entities, as bizarre as this sound, that seem to be humanoid reptilian forms.
These so-called aliens that are kidnapping and abducting people against their will, subjecting them to rigid physical examinations against their will, and then even placing implants in their skulls against their will on other parts of their body, these are not aliens from space. It's my contention that these aliens come from the inner Earth, not from outer space, because according to the way we interpret the scriptures, there is no confusion in outer space.
I believe the ones I talk to. And if I ever see any of these other aliens with their big eyes and their evolutionary big brains and the process...
and their claw-like
they better watch out. Well, regardless of their technology, because I have a little technology myself. So that's all I can say about that. What do you have to say, Connie?
Well, many people have seen that, and they all...
well, let them come around here. Let them come around here.
They all describe the same type, and it... well, you know, you can manufacture, you could produce something like that. It could be robotics. Who knows?
That's right.
It's just that I don't discount what those people are saying. They are probably actually seeing these things. But my question is, what are they, how are they produced, and where do they come from?
There's something I must interject, honey. Those are perfect questions, which have to be answered. There's something I must say. I forgot what it was.
Regarding...
I did. I forgot.
It's okay.
But that happens all the time.
I know, because there's so much that we have to say and get out, that it's tremendous. It's a complex story. It just isn't simplicity. Like someone coming from another planet landing on and then talking to the local yokel. It isn't that simple.
Our empire is down here in the basement. We call it our grotto room. It's quite small.